Hey, oh, suck that Tiger. Oh. I can't say it, but you can. Let me see it, LSU fans. In the comment section below, show the college football world that you are the best fans in all of college football. Drop a STTDB, a Go Tigers, a Joe Burrow for Heisman right now, because listen, my name is Carter the Power. I'm a proud LSU graduate, and today I'm going to tell you how LSU could have the #1 recruiting class in the country, and that's all coming up right here on Chat Sports. Before we get into some crootin', as Coach O would say, let's talk about that Alabama game. Yes, it happened. The upset, 46-41. I still can't believe it. The streak is over from all the way back in 2011 to now. Are you kidding me? Joe Burrow, 31 of 39. All those passing yards, 393 passing yards to be exact, with 3 touchdowns. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire was absolutely amazing. I couldn't believe it. It was an offensive juggernaut performance. The defense was able to hold on as LSU moves into the #1 spot in the college football rankings. Let's take a look at the new CFP top 6. LSU moves into #1. You can't really argue against that. At #2, Ohio State. 3, Clemson. 4, Georgia. Alabama at #5. And Oregon, #6. Let me share one quick stat with you right now via ESPN. The average top 25 team would only have a 1.3% shot of having LSU's undefeated record right now if they played LSU's schedule. That is called strength of schedule. And right now, we are watching an historically great LSU football team. That's what that stat tells you. So, in the comment section below, there was a huge debate over LSU being #1 and Ohio State being #2. But the bigger debate to me was that #4 and #5 ranking. Do you believe Georgia should be there over Alabama? Or do you think Alabama should be even lower? Who have they played? Come on. Give me your college football top 6 in the comment section below, and let me know if Alabama should even be close, because this Bama privilege happens every single year. Anyway, let's chat some recruiting. Right now, LSU has a legitimate shot of being the #1 overall recruiting class for the class of 2020. Yes, they're always in the top 5 or in the top 10. Rarely are they #1. And coming up, I have one prospect I think will put them over the top. But for right now, let's take a look at the top 5 classes for 2020 so far. LSU's at #2 behind Clemson, who has raked in 5 5-star prospects. Then at #3, Bama. At 4, Ohio State. And at 5, Georgia. So that's a pretty predictable top 5. But once again, LSU going for that #1 spot. And you heard what Coach O said in the locker room. We'll get to that in just a moment. If you didn't hear it, we have it for you right here on Chat Sports. So, the top 5 2020 commits for this class, starting off with the tight end, wide receiver prospect, Arik Gilbert. Not many people expected Arik to commit to LSU. This is a 5-star prospect that is the rare tight end that can stretch the field. So Arik Gilbert is your #1 rated prospect. But coming in at a close second is Elias Ricks, who made huge news. The corner said his commitment, his recruiting process is shut down. Shut it down! Elias Ricks is going to be the starting cornerback next year opposite Derek Stingley, the same way Derek Stingley started as a true freshman. I could definitely see that happening, but it's huge news that this top corner prospect is going to be an LSU Tiger. Now, looking at some of the other players, at #3, we have 5-star wide receiver Rakim Jarrett from the East Coast. This is a really big wide receiver target that can make a huge difference for the LSU offense immediately. And then at number 4, Jermaine Burton, a 4-star wide receiver. I understand so many people are going to look at LSU's receiver core and say, God, we're already stacked there. But you never know what any of these guys can do immediately. I mean, we've seen what Jamar Chase and Terrace Marshall have already done as sophomores. So it's important to keep that position loaded. And then at number 5, we have an actual Louisiana prospect, Jaquelin Roy. Yes, a 225 guy. How about that? A Baton Rouge prospect, 4-star defensive tackle. I do think he could play some end in some situations. He's huge. A little bit lanky, but I think eventually he will put on the huge frame that LSU needs for him to be a big-time defensive tackle. Coming up, we have that one recruit that I think LSU will get and put them over the top for that number 1 class. But first, I want to hook you up with a chance to win money. Via Venmo, give me your score, LSU versus Ole Miss this Saturday. The first person to correctly predict the score, I'm Venmoing you $25. Get in that comment section now. Give me a go, Tigers. Let me know what the final score is going to be, because it's going to be a crazy game in Oxford. It's crazy to think this is another return game for Ed Orgeron back to Oxford, where at the time he was not so great of a head coach. Anyway, let's take a look at some of these prospects that I think. We're going to give you 5, but this first prospect is one that if LSU gets, I think they'll finish with the number 1 class. It is 5-star running back Zachary Evans out of Houston, Texas. And if Zach is to choose LSU, guess what? That would be LSU's highest ranked prospect. Look at all those players we just mentioned. Gilbert, Roy, Ricks. This guy right now is ranked higher than all of those guys. And really quickly, let's go through some of his officials and unofficial visits. He did visit LSU on October 26th, but of course, he's made other visits, including Alabama on the 19th of October, also Texas A&M, an unofficial visit on September 21st, and then on July 27th, we had a visit with Georgia. Now, obviously, a big thing for running backs is depth chart, okay? Where would Zachary Evans fit on the LSU depth chart for next year? And obviously, the first person that comes out of your mind is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He is a junior. He will have the opportunity to go pro next year. I do think Clyde makes the jump. He is the prototypical NFL running back. A 3-down back that can pass protect, that can catch out of the backfield, that makes tacklers miss. He can also play special teams if you absolutely need it. So I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire does make that NFL jump. Now, if Clyde is not the number 1 back, the number 1 guy would be Tyrion Davis-Price, another Baton Rouge kid who has been amazing for LSU in his limited action so far this year. Then at number 3, you would have John Emery, and then right after that, Zachary Evans. Now, John Emery was the 5-star back from last year. He's going to be an even bigger part of LSU's offense next year and potentially even this year. I think Zachary Evans would slide in. Of course, you have Chris Curry. A lot of you like Chris Curry, but Zachary Evans would definitely be in the mix, and he would definitely get carries immediately next year for LSU's offense. And this is a very important fact right here. LSU right now has 0 running back commits for the class of 2020. So obviously that is their weakest position group, a huge playmaking position group. And the news this week was 4-star back out of New Orleans, Ashad Clayton, committed to Colorado on November 11th. So the young man out of Warren Easton in New Orleans is going to play for the Buffaloes. Moving on really quickly to some other prospects that LSU is definitely going to target. Philip Webb, a linebacker out of Buford, Georgia, a 4-star, number 38 overall prospect. So really just outside the 5-star range. LSU does need some linebacker help. Patrick Phillips is good. Jacob Phillips, Patrick Queen, we know about them. But after that, it does get a little shaky. I know some of you are big Micah Baskerville fans, but LSU desperately needs some more linebacker depth. I know right now that their linebacker class is okay, but it could get better with the young man out of Georgia. Also out there is Marcus Dummerville, an offensive tackle out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, at the famous, acclaimed St. Thomas Aquinas High School. Obviously, you need depth at the offensive line, but I want to go through. Now, for those that aren't familiar with St. Thomas Aquinas, we're talking about one of the greatest programs of all time. Just look at these players that this high school prep program has produced. Geno Atkins, Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa, Gio Bernard, Philip Dorsett, and there's even more after that. So those are just 5 off the top right there. So obviously that would be a nice offensive tackle commit. At number 4, we have Jason Harris, a defensive end out of Gilbert, Arizona. You might have recognized Gilbert, Arizona. There's a few other LSU prospects from Gilbert, Arizona. That would be a huge get for LSU. They do need some defensive end help. And this is not so much a big get, but Jack Yeri, a 3-star tight end out of California. LSU already has a good tight end class with Gilbert and a few other blocking tight ends that are committed. But obviously the crystal ball right now predicts LSU getting Jack Yeri. So obviously, when you think about the tight end position and all the facets that LSU uses a tight end, that would be a very nice prospect for LSU to bring in. Really quickly, I'm going to tell you about our friends at BetDSI. Now look, you need a place to place your wagers, correct? BetDSI is the place to go. All you have to do is go to chatsports.com/bet, type in the promo code CFB120, and guess what? They're hooking you up with a 120% bonus. Yes, a bonus only at BetDSI, okay? So once again, go to chatsports.com/bet. Don't forget that promo code CFB120 and let them know that Chat Sports sent you, okay? You need a place to bet the Tigers against Ole Miss, correct? Or if you think Ole Miss is going to cover, you can do all of that. Bet any sport at BetDSI. Once again, that's BetDSI. Go to chatsports.com/bet, okay? It's pretty simple. And right now we're going to do a BetDSI preview of LSU versus Ole Miss. The Tigers right now, 21.5-point favorites. That's about where I would have it. Obviously, LSU going to Ole Miss on the road against a Rebels team that's playing pretty good. They've covered their last 2 games. Their one before it against Texas A&M. They missed by covering by 1 point. This is a team that's gotten better under Matt Luke. And how about this? I couldn't believe when Rich Rodriguez became the offensive coordinator of Ole Miss. And the offense with John Reese Plumlee is getting really, really good, and their defense is getting better. I mean, this is a team that really pushed Auburn and Jordan Hare not too long ago, and that over-under number is set for 63. So, once again, go to BetDSI, CFB120. My final score for the upcoming weekend is LSU 42, Ole Miss 24. Okay? So Ole Miss does cover, but let me tell you, I do think it's going to be a high-scoring affair in Oxford. Moving on to another news item here. 4-star defensive tackle Jacobian Guillory commits on Sunday, right after the LSU beatdown. I'm going to call it a beatdown, whatever, against Alabama. How about this? Where are my friends from Alexandria, Louisiana? That is dead center, Louisiana. Alexandria is a very underrated Louisiana city that's produced some really good players, and Guillory is obviously a big defensive tackle, 6'1", 330. He's going to be a menace up the middle for LSU in the coming year. So nice commit there from the 4-star Alexandria defensive tackle. He said, quote, "It's mind-blowing. It was a great game. Unbelievable. Great win." I went and watched some of his interviews over the weekend. He's a very affable guy who I think is going to be a terror for the LSU Tigers. Now, if you want everything LSU, NFU Saints, Pelicans, comedy, follow me on Twitter at Carter the Power. That's the same on Instagram, Snapchat, all the followings at Carter the Power. Now, one more reminder before we get out of here, okay? Give me your comment below. LSU versus Ole Miss, the final score. First person that correctly predicts it, guess what? We're hooking you up with $25 via Venmo, okay? You can't beat that. All you got to do is type it down there, and I better see some STTDBs. I better see it, okay? So, I want to bring this up. This video was so interesting. Alabama recruits were at the Alabama LSU game, and at the end of the game, we saw Thaddeus Moss. We saw Grant Delpit. We saw Marcel Brooks run over to the commits and tell them to come to LSU. Now, look at this video. Look at this. There is no better recruiting than players recruiting other players. I truly believe that. For those that are true LSU fans, remember Russell Shepard? He was the best at that back in the early 2010s. This is huge in recruiting right here. So shout out to Moss, Delpit, and Brooks doing a little extra work after the LSU-Alabama games. This is the Coach O video in the locker room that was shot by a player. I'm not going to say his name because he's already embarrassed. But I want you guys to check it out one more time, okay?
Yes, sir.
We're going to beat their ass in recruiting. We're going to beat their ass every time they see us.
How's that?
You understand that?
Yes, sir.
Roll Tide, what? Fuck you.
Yeah!
We're going to beat their ass in recruiting. We're going to beat their ass every time they see us. Roll Tide, what? You. What? That is the energy I love. I love it, baby, that big Tiger energy. Roll Tide, what? You. That's so cool, man. It's great to be an LSU fan right now. How about one more time? One more time. One more time.
Yes, sir.
We're going to beat their ass in recruiting. We're going to beat their ass every time they see us.
How's that?
Give
You
it to me.
understand that?
Yes, sir.
Roll Tide, what? Fuck you.
Oh, suck that Tiger. But that's it. It's your friend Carter the Power on Chat Sports.